So I have a question. I was looking over the assignment that you guys did, and I saw that you a video. Who brought in the video American Hollow?
Back
In the back. Okay, that was really interesting. I actually was a police officer in for 10 years prior to moving up this way, and I was a police officer in Caldwell County and Catawba County, which is in the western part of the state. And so when I saw that video, it just reminded me of home. It reminded me of my old job, because I remember I moved here. I grew up in Miami, so it was very much culture shock for me when I went to work in Caldwell County, which was my first job. And I remember going to this one call. I only worked there for a year, and I was one of 2 female officers that they had just hired, so they weren't used to having females on the department at all. It wasn't terribly long ago, 1994. It's my first law enforcement job. And I went in, and I was on this domestic violence call. And there was this woman there, and she runs up to me, of course, panicking, and going, "You gotta help me! Oh, there we go! Oh, those red heels over there!" And I'm like, "Wait, slow down. What did you do?" And that's how it sounded. "You gotta hit me on the forehead." Wait a minute. What are you saying? Where did he hit you? And I remember she had to explain. I said, "Point." "Oh, hit me on my forehead." "What's a forehead?" "Oh, forehead, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah. And then use those red heels." I'll go, "What red heels? Where?" It was talking about heels of your shoes, red heels. And that was like, for me, and of course, it was just different to see these people. And I literally, one time, one of my best friend's grandmother called the house and left a message on the machine. "Hello, this is your mama," and on and on and on. And I said, "Okay, you have to translate for me, because I don't understand anything that was just said." Any of you have people that talk like that and you don't really understand what they're saying? Yeah, so it was kind of interesting. So my question is, what is culture? So we're talking about this Appalachian culture that exists, and I'm going to kind of go over that a little bit in more detail. But what is culture? What do you think culture is?
The way people live.
Way people live, but it's more detailed than that. Maybe more general than that.
Tradition-based.
Traditions, values, beliefs. Is it passed down from one generation to the other?
Sometimes.
Yeah, we teach culture, don't we? The media does it too. Media teaches us how we speak. Be all good. In this case, all good little Americans. This is what you do as you have these rules, and we have this language and values and belief system, and we have religion and all this other stuff that plays into our culture, doesn't it? Popular media, that shows how women should look, how men should look. All this kind of feeds into what is culture. So can culture be changed? You think?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And can it be different in different places?
Absolutely.
As we are noticing with this American Hollow group, right? So that's been definitely interesting. I have a question for you. And by the way, if you ever take my class, we have a safe zone. And we're allowed to say whatever we want in the class. And I always say that ignorance is perfectly acceptable, because it's my job to teach you differently. But hate is not tolerated, because there's a difference between the two. But you'd be surprised, based on culture, how many people are ignorant, right? Because it's been taught from one generation to the other, and ignorance basically is not knowing any better. It's not necessarily a bad word like some people make it out. I don't look at it as a bad word. I look at it as a teaching opportunity, right? So let's do a little fun activity here. Poor Appalachia, or Appalachian, based on the American Hollow video. Give me some stereotypes that go along, and we're allowed to say whatever you want. Give me some stereotypes that go along with that group. Derogatory terms, stereotypes.
They're backwoods.
Okay, backwoods. And forgive me, when I get up on the board, for some reason I can't spell anymore. I don't have that computer to spell check. Backwoods.
Their family tree doesn't form.
Okay, so inbred?
Incestual
Incestual.
relationships.
Spell incestual. S-E-I-S-T-U-A-L, right?
That looks good.
Okay, good. Incestual, right? What else? Okay, so let's say what about redneck? Does that come from hillbilly, redneck? Yeah. I've been told there's a difference. When you come from Miami, hillbilly and rednecks look the same. You don't really know there's a hillbilly, maybe redneck. Some people might say, and if you want to be even more derogatory, you might say white trash, right? You've heard that? term. I told you, anything goes. Right? Am I right? That's what I've heard that before when I moved here. I remember it was definitely a culture shock for me because a lot of these people didn't have teeth, you know, and that was part of the reason their language was distorted a little bit too in some cases. That was very much a culture. So you have these individuals and they have, would you say this is a sort of culture or a mentality, maybe? Right? And people cherish their culture, you know, Southern culture, for example, you know, any particular type of, there's subcultures that exist, countercultures that exist. People really sometimes like this stuff. So we got these backwoods, ancestral, uneducated, hillbilly, redneck, white trash. Whew, wow. I wouldn't want to be put under this group, would you? No, it's not, but are all these true about these people necessarily? It's stereotyping, isn't it? If we said all of them are like that. Do you think these are good-hearted people? Think they value family? We saw that, right? Value family so much that they might give up everything else to be part of that family. So you see, some things are more important to others, to some than to others. And they have a way of life that's a little different that we may think is different, but to them is perfectly normal. I was thinking about this when I was given this assignment. I was like, what if I was born in Appalachia, right? And I didn't know any different. You know, same circumstances, but you were born there. Or I think of like Westboro Baptist Church, for example, like very strong. You know, if you were born a child of somebody who was a preacher for Westboro Baptist Church, might you have the same opinions and feelings as them?
Definitely.
Yeah, that's all you'd be surrounded with, and you would know no different. How would you learn different? Going out and exploring, right? So that's what we're talking about here. How do you get, why, first of all, I think was the question of why do these people stay in here? And why don't they get out? And then we're like, okay, so what would we do? We would go out and explore, okay? And then depending on what happens when we go out and explore, we'll determine whether we say, okay, I really like this, or no, I really go back. What can happen when you go out and explore that can cause you to either leave or come back?
Money.
Money, be more specific. How so?
Lack of money.
Lack of money. Because I think in the example that was given, all these children left, and then they all came back, and that was pretty surprising. But then when Ms. Walker told me a little bit more about what they were doing when they left, and this economy, well, it's like cost and benefit, you know, cost and rewards. And if you're getting more rewards for something, you're going to stay there. If you're getting, it's like a business, you know, if you're spending more money, then you're going to leave. Well, these people went out, and first of all, do you think this mentality was accepted outside of their environment? Probably not, right? So that might have been one area where they were feeling like outsiders in this other area, and then money. So if they went out, you think the same situation, because most of them had like low labor jobs, if I remember correctly. If they went out and say became a CEO of a corporation or something like that, might that change whether they came back or not? So money's one, but that's not it. Money's definitely one. What would be another one?
The advancement of technology. They don't understand it.
They don't understand it. So if they were to get more involved in technology, the use of, okay, because that would do what to them? What would be the,
Teach them. Maybe modernize them.
okay, so you modernize them. So you're kind of getting it. So there's something significant that we're looking for to get you out of this culture of poverty. And a culture of poverty is something where it's comfortable, you know, it's easy, you know, there's no, like, for example, I was really surprised to see that a lot of these people were on welfare and they were on the system, because usually a lot of times some of these groups will be anti-government and not believe in that, but yet they work hard, they go out and they you know, hunted and gathered, so to speak, but they had a steady check coming in, right? They had the food stamps, they had health care possibly, because probably qualified for Medicaid or something like that. So there's some security there, isn't there? Because going out and working at McDonald's or something, could you pay your bills? Do you think you, for minimum wage, and have health insurance and raise kids? No. So there's no benefits there, right? And no support, because now the outside world's probably going to look at you and call you all these names. So go back here. Go back to what is safe. You know, back home, to Appalachia. We're Appalachia, because that's where I fit in. and I feel safe and comfortable. That's one argument or one theory of why people stay in these environments that you would think, why don't they get out? What's another real big key factor of whether they'll stay or go? Big one.
They're just not out.
Well, yeah, but that happens in every group. But you're doing it right now. I'll give you a hint.
Education.
I hear education. Think about it. Are these people generally have higher education, or are they pretty much, I mean, just listen to their language, right? What happens when you get educated? Many things happen, not just the fact that you're learning, but what else?
Might like to explore new things.
Might like to explore new things. A lot of these places will look down upon education. I remember when my best friend left that area, the Caldwell County Hickory area, her family kind of disowned her and said, "Oh, you think you're too good for us now? You know, you're getting all that education, you know, and stuff like that." And actually she got criticized for leaving. Now, all of her family members are, especially females, are pregnant now at 16, 17, 18 years old. They're living, you know, in their homes that are usually smaller than what we're used to. A lot of trailers, which there's nothing wrong with living in a trailer, but low income housing, you know, small houses, and that's fine. That's the culture, you know. But she escaped, and then she was criticized because she escaped, because she got an education, you know, and that was a big deal. So education, but when you're in a classroom like this, do you see what also you experience? Because this is a great example in this classroom. Except one male. Oh, you're my token male. What do you say?
Diversity.
Diversity, right? So say you grew up in an all Appalachian school and everybody's just like you and you don't know any different. You get outside of that environment and now you meet these other people and hey, they're not so bad. You know, I kind of like them. And this works with any minority group or group, you know, that's in kind of this circumstance or condition. And so you could see that getting out is hard when you're going to get in the family. I mean, this happens in poor African American communities too, where if they some people try to get out, then they're like, oh, you're feeding into the man, and you don't, you know, you're just trying to do this or you're trying to do that, and it's actually harder for young African Americans to get out of their community than it is for them to stay. Does that sound familiar? Sounds familiar? So it's kind of an interesting phenomenon that goes on. But this group gets it. I mean, they get the same way a lot of other minority groups get, but it's safe where they are. So, any questions?